All right, man, peace. So as we all know by now, Michael Jordan's famous/infamous promotion of the matchup between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in next Sunday night's mega matchup sent out a ripple effect across the sports talk world because of the subliminal allusions to the rivalry, the quote-unquote rivalry, between himself and LeBron James. Of course, with LeBron James being the attention monger that he is, he quickly decided to respond to Jordan. And of course, this has inspired many in the sports debate world to reassess what a matchup between the two of these great basketball players would look like. So of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Everybody is anticipating the matchup of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers next Sunday night. So much so that Michael Jordan was the face of NBC's promo for this upcoming clash between the Packers and Patriots. Take a listen.
A lot of talk going on these days about who is the greatest ever, about who has the titles, the raw talent, the most clutch moments. I get it. It's a tough call. I mean, even the jersey numbers are the same. But maybe the best way to settle this debate is to play it out head to head. I'll watch that.
LeBron responding to the commercial on Twitter saying, "I'm ready." Oh, my bad. I thought maybe you were, never mind. Back to my regular scheduled program.
Yes, back to your regularly scheduled program.
Programming. Steve Hinnett, if they played in the same era, would Jordan have kept LeBron from being LeBron?
Yes, he would. Yes, he would.
Damn, you said that real quick. Let me say this. Even though oftentimes I make a little fun, I jest at the expense of LeBron James. He is an all-time great player. And do I think that he would have given Jordan a serious run for his money in the playoffs? Of course. When you're an all-time great player and you're at your best and you have a good team around you, a good coach, yes, you would have a chance to beat any other great player and great team. So say, for example, the 2013 Miami Heat with Eric Spoelstra as coach and Pat Riley in the front office, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, they would have given the Bulls a good run. Would they have beaten them? Who knows? But they definitely would have given them a good run.
Let me explain, because obviously there's a lot of people out there that don't understand basketball. So let me explain to you what's going on here.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen A. Smith, a.k.a. Splinter, sitting at the end of the bench.
The talent that LeBron James has
Yep.
and what he has put on display, he's on a Mount Rushmore of basketball as far as I'm concerned.
Only if there's more than one Mount Rushmore, because he's not on the first Mount Rushmore, sorry. There's no way that he can knock off Jordan, Kareem, Bill Russell, and Magic Johnson. He just can't do it. He's not been successful in the most crucial moments.
I don't believe that would have happened if he had been in the same era as Michael Jordan. Because LeBron James' greatness would have shined against everybody else. But then when he went against Jordan, Jordan was one of those guys that he was not just out to beat you. He was out to annihilate you.
Well, the real reason why LeBron would have not been that successful against Jordan, even though once again I would have given him a shot because he is an all-time great player, but the real reason why he would not have been that successful against those Bulls teams is because the Bulls would have had, I would not call him a LeBron James stopper, with a player who could have made LeBron James maybe shoot under 50%, under 40% for the series, that being Mr. Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was a Kawhi Leonard with longer arms. And I definitely believe that he would have done his best to make life a living hell for LeBron James, especially in the finals. And let's be very clear, LeBron James' best finals performances have come as a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers the second time around. He wasn't that great in the finals with the Miami Heat. He had some good performances, like 2012 was a very, very good performance. People forget in 2013, he did not play well in that series until Game 4. And Game 5, he played poorly as well. Game 6, he was pretty good, especially down the stretch. In Game 7, he was exceptional. But it wasn't until his second run, his second tenure with the Cleveland Cavaliers, that he started to have these unbelievable performances in the finals.
To take your heart right out of your chest, to just make you just bow to his greatness practically, for crying out loud. It was like that, okay? Listen.
Well, if Michael Jordan made you bow to his greatness, why do we call LeBron James the king?
Listen, I got a lot of respect and love for Clyde Drexler. We know what Michael Jordan did to that man. And
Clyde Drexler, one of the most underrated players in the history of the NBA. And you know what's so funny? So many of the Michael Jordan naysayers out there, they claim that Michael Jordan always went up against players, shooting guards who were smaller than him. Well, Clyde Drexler was 6'7", and he also was a transcendent athlete. And Jordan roasted him in the 1992 finals.
Understand that even though he did that to Clyde Drexler is not on the level of LeBron James. But if you watch LeBron James, particularly on his show, The Shop, which I think they're doing a very, very good job. Congratulations to him and his crew with the job that they're doing. I'm really, really fond of what I'm seeing from them.
They're not really doing anything on that show. All they're doing is sitting around talking shit and taking advantage of LeBron James's fame and his famous friends. There's nothing earth-shattering or moving that they're doing on that show, other than bringing a camera into nigga nonsensical conversations.
LeBron talks about what it took for him to get to that point, like losing in the finals to the Dallas Mavericks was his greatest achievement. That, to me, in a lot of people's eyes, that's when he choked. He scored 8 points in an NBA Finals game.
And once again, that is why he would never be Michael Jordan. So he does himself a disservice to try to promote that rivalry, quote unquote, between himself and Michael Jordan. Because Jordan never had those type of moments where he just disappeared. He may have had moments in the playoffs where he didn't play well per se, but there were never entire series where he disappeared like LeBron James did in 2011. That's the bottom line. And I agree with LeBron James. That was a turning point in his career because that's when he learned to not care as much. Even though he also had other moments later on down the line where he did not play up to his expectations. But once again, since he's come back to Cleveland, he's pretty much been very, very mentally strong.
It was just an embarrassing performance, you know, the likes of which we never thought we would see. And he took tremendous hits. And it was after that the aura, the mystique of LeBron James came in the fold, because obviously he was locked in, zeroed in, what have you. What I'm proclaiming is that those early years of LeBron James and the suffering he endured because of it, against specifically somebody like Michael Jordan, he would have never recovered from that. Because Jordan would have piled it on year after year after year.
Once again, I think that the Bulls defense may have been a little bit too much for LeBron, but do not sleep on that Miami Heat team. They played exceptional defense as well. And that would have been a very, very compelling matchup in the playoffs. The 2013 Heat against, say, the 1992 Bulls or the 96 Bulls or the 93 Bulls or what have you. That would have been a very, very compelling matchup. I just don't think that the Heat would have had enough offense to keep up with the Bulls because the defense would have been very, very close. But Jordan was better in the half court. Jordan would have been the best half court offensive player in the entire series. LeBron would have probably been the best full court player in regards to end-to-end offense, transition offense. But Scottie Pippen was right there with LeBron James at his peak, say 92 or 93. But once again, there would have been great matchups. Horace Grant against Chris Bosh. Great, great matchups.
And we would have been asking for, LeBron, what you going to do against this guy? And that's the difference. See, it's not just about, when you look at LeBron in his career, Dallas, San Antonio, and you know, whoever else, you know, Cleveland and Golden State or whatever, there has been no one that LeBron James has gone up directly where it's you against them until Kevin Durant arrived in Golden State. And even then, we weren't really looking at it because of the weapon.
Well, that's not quite true, Stephen A. Smith. In the late 2000s, LeBron James had to go up against Paul Pierce. And Paul Pierce was an elite level player in the playoffs in the late 2000s. Now, LeBron James, of course, he lost twice, but he was outgunned and he was outmanned in those series.
Weapons that Kevin Durant had around him, but I'm going to still give him credit for averaging 35 and 8. Sure. All I'm saying to you is that he haven't had that. If LeBron was playing in the era with Jordan, it would have been, what you going to do against this guy?
Well, no, it would have been, what are you going to do to score on Scottie Pippen? Because once again, LeBron's going to get his. He's an all-time great player. But what great defenders, what elite level defenders do is they make you have to take more shots to get your points.
And this guy would have never allowed LeBron to elevate because it would have been at his expense And Jordan would have never allowed that. Never, not in a million years. It would have never been this LeBron, never.
Please keep in mind that Stephen A. Smith and Michael Jordan are members of the same fraternity, the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So it is a very, very high probability that many of the things that Stephen A. Smith is saying here are coming directly from the mouth of Michael Jordan.
You and I see this virtually the same way,
Okay.
but we have different spins on it.
Sure.
LeBron was still going to be LeBron. No one was going to stop him from achieving his level of greatness. LeBron was going to be a great player who dragged his team to the finals if he was in a different conference than Michael Jordan.
What LeBron James is Oscar Robertson 2.0. We're constantly hearing comparisons between LeBron James and Michael Jordan, LeBron James and Magic Johnson. Is he more Michael Jordan? Is he more Magic Johnson? He's really neither one. He's really Oscar Robertson 2.0.
Every single year, where he would have lost to Jordan every single year had they played in the same league. I mean,
And that means he wouldn't have been LeBron?
well, he would have been recognized as the
I'm not quite sure if LeBron would have lost to Michael Jordan every single year. I mean, who knows? Maybe he would have. But just to give credit to what he brings to the table as a player, you'd have to think that at least one of those series would have been competitive enough that maybe the Heat would have been able to sneak one out of there.
as the second greatest player of all time, which he is now. In other words, look, LeBron can do more with less than...
And no, LeBron is not the second greatest player of all time. He's not even in the top 5 in my view.
...than any player who ever lived. More than Magic Johnson, more than Larry Bird, more than Michael Jordan.
Well, I have a hard time agreeing with the notion that LeBron James does more with less than any great player ever. He's certainly up there. He's up there. But keep in mind that the year before Larry Bird got to the Celtics, they were a 29-win team. He gets there and there's no other change of personnel other than him, and they win 60 games. In regards to Magic Johnson, of course, he was fortunate enough to be drafted by a team that already had the great Kareem. But he was the player who took them over the top in regards to becoming a championship-level team. So it is debatable. But the LeBron James effect on any team that he goes to, it is undeniable. But you do have to pay a price, because all of your other players are going to be marginalized. And everything becomes so much about LeBron that you have to understand that the year after he leaves is basically going to be a scorched earth effect on your squad. They're going to be horrific. And most likely the coach is going to get fired, as we see with Tyronn Lue.
More than anyone. You give LeBron a cast of characters who no one else could drag to a finals. LeBron will drag him to a finals, at least to a weak conference. And those other guys can't do as much with as little. But if you're talking about now you're both crewed up, who's going to put you over the top? Michael Jordan. And let me tell you something. LeBron uses advanced analytics. He has the benefit of them and he uses them. And do you know what all of the advanced analytics say? In their primes, Jordan was slightly better than LeBron. And he didn't have the benefit of using those same analytics that...
Absolutely, and I've made that point in the past. LeBron James is that guy in the middle of the first quarter who looks at the stat sheet and wants to look at all the advanced analytics at halftime and things of that nature. And don't get it twisted, all great players do that. Michael Jordan has looked at the stat sheets in the middle of games to see if he's close to a triple-double. Larry Bird has done it. But LeBron is so infatuated with things like true shooting percentage and things of that nature. He should basically be a computer out there on the basketball court. That's why his proficiency numbers have gone up over the last 7 or 8 years. And that's why he has a higher career field goal percentage than Michael Jordan right now, because he's so cognizant of that. But Jordan was not aware of a lot of those higher level analytics back then, like LeBron James is right now. And as Max Kellerman has stated, in his prime, he was still a more efficient and proficient player than LeBron James.
...that tell you Jordan's a little better than LeBron. This idea that LeBron is he's a greater athlete. You know, Michael Jordan has the all-time highest vertical in the history of the NBA, 48 inches. Dean Smith claims Michael Jordan ran a 40 in 4.3 seconds. Even if that's not true, he's recorded at 4.6, same as...
Yes, I've seen that as well. And actually, it was also Deion Sanders who stated that Michael Jordan ran a 4.340. I believe that Michael Jordan participated at a function that was being held by Deion Sanders, and he ran a 40-yard dash in somewhere around 4.3 seconds.
Same as LeBron, but Dean Smith claims 4.3. In other words, as an athlete, Michael Jordan, people forget now. There were articles in Sports Illustrated like, is he defying gravity somehow? Why is he able to hang in the air so much?
Well, LeBron James has over Jordan is more muscle mass. That's pretty much about it. In regards to overall athleticism, he's not a greater athlete than Jordan. He doesn't run faster. He doesn't jump higher. He does not have bigger hands. He does not have better hand-eye coordination. Now, of course, LeBron James is elite in all those categories, but so was Jordan, and just a little bit more. But what LeBron does have is he has overall muscle mass, body mass.
So much longer than everyone else. If you're talking about pure athlete, Jordan's become underrated. If you're talking about, well, what the analytics say, in fact, Jordan's become underrated.
In regards to his overall basketball game and his basketball IQ, Jordan has become underrated. What the LeBron James fanboys, especially you, Max Kellerman, have decided to do is underrate what Michael Jordan brought to the overall basketball game and just concentrate on scoring. Now, every once in a while when you have these type of debates, at least you're honest and forthright enough to establish all the things that Jordan could do. But many of the LeBron James fanboys in the super liberal mainstream media, they'll try to state that LeBron James is a giver, Michael Jordan's a taker, and LeBron passes the ball so much. LeBron is a very good, borderline great passer, but he's overrated. He's not the passer that Larry Bird was. He's nowhere near the passer that Magic Johnson was. And Michael Jordan is a far greater passer than people give him credit for. Also a better defender than LeBron James ever was.
And if you're talking about all the intangibles that you bring up, Stephen A., there's no comparison. Jordan's one of all time. But that doesn't mean he could stop LeBron's greatness. LeBron wouldn't have wins against Jordan in the finals, but he would still have elevated his team.
Let me ask you this. I obviously, Jordan's better, but LeBron would have thrived in any era, right?
LeBron would have thrived in any era, but not to the degree that he is in this era. Let's understand.
Hold the thought, though, where I'm going with this, because I want to ask you. Is it...
LeBron would have been great in any era. Once again, he's Oscar Robertson 2.0. And oftentimes, many of his naysayers, and many naysayers of athletes, period, they take things so personally to the level where they try to denigrate an athlete by saying that he's just a product of his era. No great or transcendent athlete is simply a product of their era. They just happen to be participating in that era. They can't help that. And that's why I've stated, if Jerry West played today, he'd be dominant today. If Steph Curry played back in the 60s, he'd be dominant back then. If LeBron James played in the 1980s, he'd be dominant in the 1980s. There's no doubt about it in my mind. It is what it is.
Is it possible, if they were playing in the same era, he would have been even better because Jordan would have pushed him even more?
No.
Why?
Because Jordan would have targeted him personally. In other words, what I'm trying to say to you is that the difference between LeBron in this era and
See, conversations like this are when you need to have someone like an Isaiah Thomas on the panel. Even though we all know he's a Jordan hater, he would have added a little bit more nuance and context to the conversation, where Stephen A. Smith is just a little bit too overboard with it. I do believe that there may have been a series or two where LeBron James and his best team, they would have defeated Michael Jordan. But overall, of course, Jordan's going to get the edge. But when you're competing great against great, one player is not always going to win. It's just not going to happen. There are going to be other great teams. And when I say great, I'm talking about championship level teams. Every era, there's going to be at least one transcendent, borderline dynastic team. Sometimes we'll have two great teams, maybe even three. But when we're comparing championship level eras, and we're trying to take one era and then say, well, what if these two eras coincided with one another? What if the Showtime Lakers were around today? Would they have been able to beat Golden State in a series? Of course, Golden State is going to win some series, and these Showtime Lakers are going to win some series. That's how that goes.
Previous eras is that LeBron is just the greatest player of this era, and you're out there competing, and you're going up against the Steph Currys of the world, and you know the juggernaut that is the Golden State Warriors or whatever. That is entirely different than you struggling from a heart perspective earlier on in your career, going up against the ultimate killer and assassin.
Now, the better debate or the better conversation would have been had LeBron James played in the 70s and 80s without the free agency era. Would he have been able to transcend that? Would he have been able to win in an era where he just couldn't just up and leave and go to another team and try to construct a super team?
Asset. And because of that is what I'm saying. He would have been. And I don't know. This
Stephen A., watch this. Let me interrupt this real quick, but I got something for you that might change your mind.
Sure.
Let's put it this way. The arguments for LeBron as the greatest of all time are based on longevity, right? Because in their primes, Jordan was
For the most part, longevity and also productivity.
Was a little better, correct?
Okay.
Well, let's say they did go head-to-head. Jordan would have gotten him through Jordan's whole prime, on those Bulls teams, right? Those Bulls teams would have beaten LeBron's Miami or Cleveland teams every time, but eventually...
Well, I wouldn't say every time. But, of course, you'd have to give the Bulls the edge because they never lost. The Heat lost. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they lost. But I'm not just going to say, well, the Bulls would have beaten them every time. You never know what may have happened.
Eventually, Jordan's going to retire. LeBron's still going to be there.
Well, let me ask you this question. This is a rhetorical question. I don't need an answer. We don't talk about Will Chamberlain that way, and we recognize him for the great center that he was. But when we...
Thank you, Stephen A. Smith, for bringing up Will Chamberlain. That's why I say what, and I've been telling you brothers this for a very long time. LeBron James, in regards to player archetype, not his style of play, but in regards to what he represents, player archetype, he is the modern-day Wilt Chamberlain. He's the modern-day Shaquille O'Neal. Once again, not according to style of play, but according to player archetype, meaning the most dominant physical force in the league.
When we talk about guys, we mentioned Kareem, we mentioned Russell. You all right? So the bottom line is, why is that? Because he kept losing to Russell. That's why. And so what I'm saying is, if you're LeBron, understand, I'm not talking, and I want everybody to understand this. I'm not talking about LeBron now. What I'm saying is, he would not have been allowed to get to where he is now because the roadblock that is Jordan would have been standing in his way the whole time. And as a result, all we would have been talking about, regardless of his greatness, we would have seen LeBron drop 50 one night. We would have seen him destroy other guys another night. We would have seen him be the greatest player in the world in people's eyes one other night. And we would have kept saying, but you can't beat Jordan. And the point is, the earlier part of his career, those first 7-8 years, where he was trying to find his way, where he himself admitted, I was thinking too much about what other people thought, I was caring too much about what other people had to say, and all of these other things. Those things that served as an impediment and a roadblock to his success would have never been overcame in the Jordan era.
That's a valid point that you're making, Stephen A. Smith.
It would have never happened.
Eventually, Jordan would have retired.
Okay,
and then LeBron would have taken the stuff he learned from competing.
Well, Max Kellerman, a lot of your argument is based on pure conjecture and speculation. And we also have to add in that there may be some reasons why LeBron James has so much longevity today. Certain quote-unquote supplements may not have been available to him back in the Jordan era or the Magic Johnson Bird era. And his career may have been cut short. Who knows? Once again, there's a reason why when he first came back to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2014, and he could barely dunk with one hand. I'll never forget, there was a play where he was alone on a fast break. They outlet the ball to him, and he jumped up and dunked it with two hands, and it was unbelievable. He barely got his hands over the rim. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Then the guy takes 2 weeks off, goes down to Miami, comes back, diesel and jumping out the gym again. I said, okay.
But if Jordan had retired, then we would have all said, but you didn't beat Jordan.
Right, so
that's all I'm saying.
So really what you're saying is the only difference would be all these fools who think LeBron is better than Jordan wouldn't be able to make that argument.
That's right.
I agree with that.
You're right.
I agree with that.
He wouldn't have let you overcome. He'd have to listen.
But he'd be better than everyone else still. He'd still be...
No, he would not. LeBron James would not be better than a prime Larry Bird or a prime Magic Johnson. I'm sure a lot of his fans are going to get upset by that. They always get upset when I mention Larry Bird. At the end of the day, the far better debate is LeBron James versus Larry Bird, not LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. That's the real debate. Just like the real debate with Kobe is Kobe versus Oscar Robertson or Kobe versus Dr. J, not Kobe versus Jordan. No.
He'll be the second best.
Jordan was the ultimate killer. He had to beat you in cards. He had to beat you in pool. He had to beat you on a golf course. If he lost to you, you want to continue playing again, made you W. The stories about Jordan and the killer that he was, LeBron would have never gotten to this point going against him.
It's Brady Rogers, right?
He would have never got it.
The whole thing with Brady Rogers is team success versus personal ability. Jordan had both. That's my point about his athletic quality. He had both. He was both the freakish athlete that you couldn't understand, and he was the most intense competitor.
Right.
You want to put your closing statement this way?
Yeah.
Kobe would have had a better chance against Jordan.
Kobe didn't have any wins against Jordan either in his prime.
Jordan,
But he's talking about the mentality.
Jordan, he would have had a better chance.
Let us know on Twitter.
I disagree with that as well. I agree with Max Kellerman. Kobe would not have had a chance either because Kobe would have been so infatuated with trying to win the one-on-one matchup, he would have alienated all of his teammates. Kobe had no team understanding until 2007. But it is what it is. Peace.